Have you ever suffered from spirit-crushing self-doubt when it comes to your photography? In this episode, Jeffrey and I have an honest discussion about the impact of imposter syndrome on photographers of all levels. We share our own experiences with it, from questioning our photography skills in general to the business challenges of selling prints and workshops. We also explore the fine line between healthy humility and detrimental self-doubt, providing practical tips to help manage and overcome these feelings. As always, hop over to Patreon after the show to join us in the episode discussion. Now, let's get started, shall we? Hello, Jeffrey.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you.
We're on episode 16, man. I don't know why that seems crazier than episode 15
crazy.
for some reason. Like, we're approaching 20.
It does, right? It's like milestones.
So I don't know. It's going to be a hard follow-up to our episode last time with Alex, but hopefully we can pull together a good one. I think this will be actually a pretty good discussion. This is, as we were talking before we hit record, this is another one of those topics with imposter syndrome where kind of going into it, I was thinking like, I don't know how much we're going to be able to talk about it. I know you and I both have experience with it, but how much can you really fill up a full episode about imposter syndrome? But then looking over our prep sheet, I'm like, oh yeah, we can talk about that. We can talk about that. We can talk about that. So I think we'll come out pretty good here. And I think imposter syndrome is probably something that just about every one of our listeners has experienced or may actively be experiencing. So I think it's a pretty relevant conversation. We can kind of get into maybe some tips and tricks for how we've kind of gotten ourselves out of a imposter syndrome rut or what have you. But before we get into that, anything you got to report in terms of updates in your world? You've got Death Valley. Well, let's see. Again, as we're recording this,
I'll be in Death Valley when this is released.
This is so messed up. We're recording now almost 3 months ahead. But
it is.
So anyways, I hope Death Valley is going well for you.
Right? Me too. And
I'll have just gotten back from Utah, so hopefully that went well. That workshop has not done well in terms of bookings so far, but maybe we can get some in the last month here before we have to cut off registrations on that. But anyways, you'll be in Death Valley, but anything just in terms of real-time updates that you want to share? Anything you've been working on besides that?
Real-time updates. I got my calendar proof in from my local printer. It looked great, so I gave them the go-ahead to print my orders from that. I actually stock inventory of calendars. I play that risky game of having inventory on hand. Probably not the smartest way to do it, but it just makes it a little easier for me in some logistics fashion. So it's getting printed. My medals, I redid my medal setup for the art fair booth that I'm doing in like 2 weeks real time. So like mid to late September past. It will have happened by the time this episode airs. But I did a set of 4 20 by 30s for that show. So they showed up earlier this week. And they looked good, which is always, I'm one of the, we had our printing episode just recently and I crossed my fingers that everything comes looking good and they came in looking good.
Who'd you order them from?
Happy about that. But I use Shiny Prints for my medals. Yeah. They're based out of Florida and all they do is medals and I've got the pro photographer discount through them. So they're very well priced and they always look really nice when they come in, assuming the photo I sent them looked good. Right. Which will play a little bit into this episode about imposter syndrome, because I still have that thing of, should I really have printed this image? Is it good enough to be on a 20 by 30 medal? But we'll dive into that later. And some odds and ends art fair rep. That's what most of my time has been consumed on. I think you and I are trying to piece together a 2026 schedule, which hopefully will be live by the time for the ones that we're collaborating on next year. So I'm also trying to get that done and some stuff up on the website, which will hopefully by the time this airs be on our websites for the ones.
Oh yeah, I was thinking you were talking about the podcast schedule, but yeah, workshop schedule. Yes.
No, workshop schedule.
Yeah, I would hope we've got it up on the website by then.
Yes.
I know I've got the join the wait list disclaimer on mine, so yeah. We'll have to put our heads together on that. And we've got obviously a weird time coming up for us in terms of recording the podcast. For our listeners, it'll be completely transparent, unnoticeable, whatever. But we've got 3 more weeks of recording, and then we're both basically unavailable for all of October. I think we just figured out we've got one date that we can sneak in a recording on. And I think a couple dates in November between holidays, and then my plan to get married, even though we're just going to the courthouse. Certainly don't want to record a podcast episode on that date. So I would imagine if I tried to float that idea, I would maybe not actually be getting married.
Not be getting married.
So,
exactly.
And then travel Thanksgiving and that. And then December too. I think we've only got a couple dates because you got your Death Valley workshop and then again, Christmas and all that jazz. So yeah, it's going to be weird. I guess we'll have plenty of time to do our editing and schedule post out and everything. But we might be a little rusty by the time we get back into a regular recording schedule again. So
that's my big concern. After a break like the October, November time frame, we're going to hop on and everyone's going to be like, who's these new guys doing this episode?
We've seen what happens when I take even a week or two off and I can't figure out how to actually talk or record an introduction or what have you. So yeah, that'll be interesting. But anyways, anything else you got to share? Or?
No, that's pretty much it. Be keeping busy with all that. What's up with in your direction?
Yeah, it's been another one of those weird weeks where I feel like I haven't done much, but I've gotten back. I think we talked about it last week. I kind of let the podcast work slip a little bit, not to the point where we are in danger of missing a release schedule or anything like that, but just had a little bit of cushion, and with my birthday, and then trying to get myself back in the swing of things after taking that week kind of off. Finally getting my feet under me again there. I've got a couple episodes wrapped up. Got another one that's rough cut ready. I just have to record the intro and get it exported, then go back and edit the shorts, which is kind of the most tedious thing because, just cleaning up the captions and everything. It's always kind of that thing I look forward to the least in terms of working on the podcast. What else have I been working on? I picked up working on the mobile app that I mentioned a few episodes back. Or was that last week? I can't even remember. See, things go so quick. But anyways, the photography packing checklist app, I picked that back up. Yeah. And hopefully I'll have that over to you in the next few days if you want to kick the tires a little bit. I was trying to wrap my head back around that because it's been about 3 weeks since I last touched it. So I was trying to remember where exactly I'd left things off. And I think for the most part, functionality wise, it's there. I got a lot of UI cleanup and consistency I got to work on, but wanted to make sure things were working the way I want them first. Really only have one major functionality piece, I think. Two, actually, but I'm not going to get into the weeds on that just yet. But feeling good about that. Just got to keep plugging away at it, and I think it'll come together. What else? I didn't work on photo editing at all. I keep wanting to, and then it just seems like there's always something else that kind of pulls my priorities away. And then I gotta get ready for my September newsletter that needs to go out next week. Make a final push on the Utah workshop. Like I said, we're really struggling on that one, which really surprises me, especially since we quote unquote upgraded it and partnered with Nick Stover and the Nature Photography Collective, and we've got the Jeeps included for off-road adventure and everything. And it's just really kind of been crickets. Don't understand that one unless it's just people are getting worried about the economy or whatever. But I don't know. Yeah. Little disappointing there. And hey, that's a segue right into imposter syndrome. How about? So we want to talk about one of the things that can drive imposter syndrome is feeling like people don't either trust you or value your skill set enough or whatever to potentially sign up for a workshop. Not to turn this into a little woe is me sob story, but if I'm being totally transparent, that does kind of tickle the imposter syndrome section of the brain a little bit when you're struggling to fill something like that. It's the reality of it, right? Yeah.
The workshops and then, my big metal prints, I know when I go to these shows that I have decent work, but when I print them and get them, it's so it just goes to show both you and I here on this podcast hosts, we still suffer or contend with imposter syndrome.
As elite photography podcast host, how could we possibly suffer?
Exactly, right?
Yeah, it's weird. Exactly. And I guess kind of jumping backwards in time, looking at one of the first questions I had ticked as far as something we could discuss is for you, Jeffrey. I know you've talked about imposter syndrome, whether it be on our episode with Matt and entering into photo contest and then looking at the other entries in something like the Natural Landscape Photography Awards and the quality of work that's submitted there, and then obviously comparing it to ourselves and everything. But do you recall when you first had the little demon of imposter syndrome kind of bubble up and start maybe nibbling on you a little bit, or is this something kind of it's always been there? Because I know for me it started at a specific point, I think, but I'm curious for you where it came up.
Know if I have a specific point in time. I think there's a graph out there that when you're new at something and you make those initial leaps of skill, all of a sudden you feel like you're 3 weeks in and suddenly I've got this figured out, my photos are great, and then you go into this little valley. I feel like, though I don't have a specific instance to say where I felt like I was in that valley. I certainly feel like I went through that. Picked up a camera, started doing landscape photography. 3-4 weeks into it, I'm great. I'm awesome. My pictures are great. Look at this. I can crank that saturation slider, and my photos look amazing.
Right.
So much better than
clarity plus
anyone
70.
else's. And then right, all of those things you do to be an amazing photographer, and then as you do it and continue to be immersed in it, to me, you find yourself in that valley where you realize how little you know and how amazing some of the work that's out there is. So I can't really pinpoint the time, but I definitely feel like it was you go up, feel really good, and all of a sudden you're in this wow mode. But you said you've got a sort of a specific instance when you felt this?
Yeah, I mean, going back, we've talked about it, and actually I'll refer back to our conversation with Barb Livieri on our workshops episode. In a subsequent episode, I've been editing, I referred to her as Beverly for some reason. So Barb, my bad. I know your name. But anyways, talking to her in that episode about workshops and my comments about like, I was this cocky SOB in 2018. It's very much that Dunning-Kruger effect, I believe is the proper term, but where you, like you said, you get a little bit of skills under your belt and a little bit of knowledge, and you get to a point where you feel you're far more of an expert than what, like I was not an expert in 2018, certainly. And, I already had visions of, I want to start leading workshops and this and that and yada, yada, yada. And in the meantime, like my own house wasn't clean and tidy, so to speak. So last thing would have been trying to run a workshop. But so going from that, and then where I really remember imposter syndrome first really, really hitting me hard was in 2020 when I decided to kick off the YouTube channel. And I had thrown a couple videos out there in the past, just some time-lapse things when I was dabbling around that again, when I wanted to be the next Michael Shane Bloom, master of time-lapses, and talk about Dunning-Kruger there. Like, they were pretty bad, the ones I've got on my YouTube channel. But when I decided in 2020 during the pandemic to take the extra time being at home and decided to launch into doing YouTube tutorials and things like that. And I think it was in my interview with Matt Payne on his podcast, sitting, I remember so vividly sitting on the sofa before I started recording and like almost being on the verge of tears because like that anxiety of like, being in front of the camera. So part of it was just pure anxiety. I'm not exactly somebody that's terribly outgoing and whatnot, ironically enough, since I'm now running a YouTube channel and a podcast.
Right. YouTube channel, figure. A podcast.
But just the anxiety too of like, do I deserve to be producing how-to videos and tutorial videos? Well, I knew my stuff, and I had done some one-on-one Lightroom coaching sessions and stuff, and I think I'd done some presentations. No, I don't think I had done any presentations by that point either. So anyways, that imposter syndrome just like came down on me like an avalanche, and having to use some old tools from my corporate career and with myself, but also with I would mentor and do a lot of training and developing, and you're reminding people not to psych themselves out, psych themselves up. So talk yourself up, don't beat yourself down. And, you can do this. In my case, like nobody asked me to do the YouTube channel, but I did truly feel like I had something to offer. So reminding myself all of those little things like, hey, this is what you've observed and what's out there already. And, we know with our background in training, development, coaching, blah, 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 that we can probably offer something of value even compared to all of the content that's already existing. So again, psyching oneself up instead of psyching yourself out and freaking yourself out. So just pulling some of those old tricks out of the bag. But yeah, the YouTube channel launch was definitely, I would say, not the launch, but again, when I decided to kind of relaunch it, was definitely when it probably hit me the hardest for the first time. And I'm sure before that, there were probably moments, especially as I got past 2018 at the peak ego moment of myself. And
right. Once you crossed that.
And then probably started being a little bit more realistic about where I was really at in that. But so for me, it was definitely the launch of the YouTube channel. And fast forwarding a little bit of the podcast. I'd been wanting to, it was something I'd been considering for, I'd say at least a year, but it was still that like, I'm not a real big name, and do I really have the knowledge and the true expertise to put myself out there as host of a podcast, whether I was going to do it by myself or, then I met you and like, Jeffrey seems like a cool guy. Let's just toss it out there and we'll see what happens. And here we are, 16 episodes in.
Here we are.
But, there's a lot of self-doubt going into something like that too. So
going back to the YouTube channel, you had thoughts about, is this ready for it? And we all know how negative YouTube comments can get. And if you take out the ones that are just, you get no matter who you are on YouTube. Do you think the feedback supported your imposter, or do you think it was the self-doubt, which is more what you see with imposter syndrome? It's the self-doubt that gets you more so. I'm sort of assuming your videos were pretty well received in those early days, even despite the self-doubt.
Yeah, definitely self-doubt. I mean, thankfully, I've had so few, I really haven't had any, like, hopefully, I'm not jinxing it, but I haven't really had any, like, the troll type comments where people are just being mean and nasty, or, I've had things like, you talk too fast, but then on the flip side, you get, you talk too slow, or, it's always this, like, realizing that everybody's got their own preference for how you present and everything. But I haven't had anything really that would just like shut me down. Again, as we talked in the workshop episode, it's my initial reaction to anything, even if it's just you talk too fast, is like, got to put on my armor and be defensive. But working my way through that just emotional, psychological flaw, opportunity, we'll call it, that I know I've got anyways. But I haven't had anything real bad. So it was very much just the self-doubt. And even now, like I'm in a huge lull on my YouTube channel. I haven't put out a video since March or April. I haven't done a Lightroom tutorial in quite a while. And now, like, I know I need to get back to it, and I want to get back to it. But even just taking that big pause, it's kind of like, I guess maybe I'm talking myself out of it, but maybe it's less imposter syndrome as opposed to just like, the work on top of the podcast and everything. But I do think there's a little bit of that too. And like I've branched into in-field videos on the YouTube channel over the last couple of years. And then like I love watching Ben Horn's in-field stuff. And we've talked about Thomas Heaton, and I really find his stuff entertaining. Adam Gibbs and that. And then you look at, especially like a Thomas Heaton, like the production quality of what he's putting out there and entertainment value. And then I look at mine and having to remind myself, like, you're not trying to be Thomas Heaton. You're trying to do your own thing. And I've said, like, I want my infield stuff just literally be a vlog. Like, here I am out in the field. I'm just kind of talking stream of consciousness and going at it. But all of that still there's a little bit of that self-doubt and that trepidation about getting back in front of the camera, even though I've been doing it weekly for the sake of the podcast. So it's just one of those weird psychological quirks, things, hang-ups, whatever.
Yep, so, for sure.
So do you feel, well, I've talked about my imposter syndrome is definitely getting on camera, and do I have the expertise to talk through things from a position of authority and so on and so forth. I know yours, at least from what we've talked about, it kind of bubbles up in terms of the quality of your work. Is that really your main driver of it, or do you get hit with it elsewhere?
Yeah, it's my work. It's my end result is where the bulk of it. And that's not to be, I know because, I've got the YouTube channel. I'm here on the podcast with you. And before we switch to my work, you mentioned in your training, psych up, not psych down. And I used to do technical support for Microsoft a long time ago back in the day. And I'm literally a guy that had very strong fundamentals trained to me by Microsoft for those tech support days. But I would get on the phone with people calling in that were system administrators, have done it for years, who certainly knew more than me. And I think that's where I learned a little bit of confidence and a little bit of step-by-step gets you through even complex and challenging situations. And even though I don't know everything about everything, there's a chance I know more about something than you just because I've been exposed more, had different training, or just seen the situation. So that's how come I think the YouTube podcast, me talking about photography in front of people, I lean into the beginner to intermediate, how to do things. So I feel like I put myself in what I consider a safe space. So I think that's why that piece doesn't affect me quite as much. It's a background from the technical side of the world that I translated to. But when we get to my output of work, that's where I have the biggest sense of imposter syndrome, just because I don't know, there's so much great stuff out there, and I feel like my stuff is okay. It's good, but I don't know. I certainly struggle with the output of work from there, and it's something I continue to work on and grow. But yeah, every time I post something, it's like, I don't know. I definitely struggle with the output of work and quality of work. Not to say I think my stuff is bad, just when you start to see other work, like we talked about the little thing, you realize how much great work is out there. When you take what I've got against some of the amazing stuff I see other photographers putting out there, that's where my self-doubt comes in. Like, is my stuff good enough to be putting out here? And I keep doing it just because I'm stubborn, and I know it's not like I'm stopping and saying this is the best I'm ever going to be, so this is it. I continue to work, and I hope people see Jeffrey's getting a little better, his eye's getting a little better, maybe the technical editing technique, but and I guess I'm just willing to take that. And to be fair, no one has commented on my stuff, said that's a terrible photo. I get likes, I get positive comments. I don't get, oh, why'd you even post this? This is garbage. But that's certainly it's for me, it's the output of work that is where I feel most like an imposter.
Yeah. And I think you hit on a couple things there. And first of all, I'll refer back to, I don't remember which episode it was, but I pointed out to you, I was looking at your online gallery on your website, and you've got some absolutely beautiful work on there. So yeah, I'll fight against your imposter syndrome on your behalf.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate that. I feel like it's caliber of people I hang out with doesn't help me, because some of the circles that you and I hang out with online in our online communities, their work it's in the upper cut. It's not like the Facebook groups. But I'll let you go.
Well, and again, you just kind of touched on that piece again, like that. What is the Teddy Roosevelt quote? I believe it was Teddy Roosevelt. Comparison is the thief of joy. And we talked about the Natural Landscape Photography Awards and the books with Matt, and the amount of inspiration you can get out of something like that. But it is kind of that knife's edge of inspiration versus that comparison being the thief of joy, in terms of making you feel like you don't belong, or you are that imposter, or what have you. People think I'm better than I really am. Again, all that self-doubt bubbling up. So I think that's where it's important to recognize when maybe comparison is beating yourself down a little bit, and knowing when to step away, or again, find ways to, instead of, that self-talk that's rooted in negativity or doubt, consciously making an attempt to use self-talk that's rooted in positivity and building yourself up. Even if you feel like when you're doing it, it's not true, having that more positive self-talk tends to then follow along with kind of pulling yourself out of that maybe not dark place, but low place, or what have you. And then the other thing you touched on, comparison being the thief of joy. And Jeffrey, oh goodness gracious, I just lost it. Social media, which is again kind of going to that comparison piece, but also social media. See, I knew I'd get it back.
We're doing it live. That's how it goes.
Just had to tell the audience I lost my train of thought and I don't know what I'm doing, and it comes right back to me. But no, social media being the other thing, which is also ties into the comparison piece, but also the validation piece. And I have said many times over the last couple of years, as we've seen social media become tougher and tougher just to reach your audience, let alone get engagement from your audience, that I don't really care, I just put my stuff out there or whatever. But if I'm being totally honest, I do care. Like, when I get an image these days with 100 likes, which is phenomenal in this point of 2025, versus an image I put out that I really like and it gets like 40, kind of like, I'm a little sad that maybe people don't like it as much as I do, but also that self-doubt creeps in a little bit. As much as I say it doesn't impact me, I think it's just human nature. You've got to be pretty tough, thick-skinned, whatever you want to frame it as, to not have that little self-doubt creep in, even though you know it's the algorithm or what have you, it just kind of bubbles up. So social media, and again, the comparison piece, but also just that external validation, but it's not in your control, and it's not even in your audience's control because they just may not see it or what have you. So I think that's, again, knowing when to step away. And there's times where like I'll open up Instagram and kind of be scrolling, and like I start seeing some amazing photos, and I got repost them now and share them. But then if that little like, oh, I'm not in league with these folks, or again, that self-doubt bubbles up, I'll just close the app and like, all right, enough of that, because I can feel myself kind of going down that path.
Right.
So do you think, we've talked about it, like imposter syndrome to me is something that's always kind of been there as I've put myself more out there, especially from trying to have this as a career and everything. But do you think it's something that ever really goes away? I'm sure for some people it does, but I kind of feel like it's always, if you're continuing to push yourself, it's probably something that's always going to be there. It's just, to me, how you manage it. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel like it's always there. I think, especially if you're a photographer who's trying to, maybe I shouldn't say this. I feel like if you're a photographer who's trying to grow and continue to improve, and I get it, the first early stages of improvement come easy, right? Like you see rapid improvements, but then you hit that phase where it takes years and years and years to move the needle much. But I have a feeling it's a constant. And I say some of that just even based on some of the guests we've had on this on the podcast. There's almost always they reference someone they look up to. Like it doesn't matter who we bring on. So we've had guests on here that, like, in my eyes, they're up above me, right? Like I look up to them. They're on our show talking, but then they've got someone that, even last week Alex was talking about scrolling through the photo gallery, and what was it? Alistair Ben just close that down. Like I feel like that. I mean, I can't speak for Alex, but I feel like that's a situation of someone who very well established in our craft, more advanced than me, knows way more than I do about the nuances of it, is facing similar things at a higher level, but is experiencing. So I guess I feel like it's probably something that hangs around forever, and part of succeeding in continuing is learning to quiet the demons.
That's a good way to put it.
But I don't know. What do you think?
No, I agree. And like using that example of Alex, and again, I don't know. Obviously we know the context of how you framed it in the discussion with them. Right. But for me, like if somebody like Alistair Ben, or even Alex himself, somebody I really admired, was looking through my gallery and I saw them get to an image of like, I'm going to just close this out. Like, to me, that would be imposter syndrome bursting through the wall like the Kool-Aid man. Like, hey, I'm here to just totally destroy you. So, yeah, I would imagine, again, I'm sure there's people out there that either have that self-confidence that they're at where they're at and they're happy with it and they just kind of do their own thing, or even me, I've had times in my past life, more so probably when I was younger, where I was just like completely oblivious to what it was weird. It's like I would worry about what other people think, but then I would just kind of like go on autopilot and do things, and I would do them well. And like, it just wouldn't even like, register in my mind, like in the act of doing it. So it's always been kind of a weird relationship, but I do feel like as I've gotten older, and maybe it's, I've been open about my struggles with anxiety and depression the last several years, especially, and certainly when my mood is on a decline, then that self-doubt very much so bubbles up a lot, to the point where before I finally decided to reach out and get some help, like it was just crippling me in terms of even getting off the sofa to try to do anything. So there's all kinds of factors, external factors, internal health. I've got the Crohn's disease, which if that's bothering me, that can bring my mood down. And then it's just kind of like this snowball effect. So everybody's got their own, as you put it, demons that you've got to kind of tame and quiet. But, I think, again, it goes back to recognizing when that's creeping in and having some soft skill tools in your pocket in terms of how you can kind of talk yourself back up and get yourself out of that frame of mind or mindset, however you want to put it.
I think that's important. There's the peaks and valleys you mentioned with the outside circumstances of anxiety, depression, or even things going wrong at the house. We've been going through, I sent 2 kids off to college and multiple things have broken at the house, new set of tires for the 4Runner. And it's like all that starts to weigh in, and it takes what is normally a good day that is fine, and I'll find myself in a valley where that is the wrong day to be looking at pictures online, because it's just compounding the anxiety and stress I'm already feeling, versus I could go look through the same set of photos on a day where everything's great, no unexpected expenses and nothing's broken at the house, cars are running fine. And then I could go through that same set and just from that mental state. So I think it's important to call out that there's waves of how this sinks in, and even more to the point, probably a key to success is realizing when you're in one of those dips and have that soft tool set, soft skills to get yourself out of it. Know that today's probably not the day to go look at some stunning new gallery release from someone you look up to. Bookmark it for a day or in a different mood and observe from that. So I think it's a really good point.
And an example for me would be when I got back from Colorado and we talked in the, I think it was the special Patreon edition we recorded, but I loaded or imported everything to Lightroom, and I started going through it with the intent of starting to cull my images, and I was just in that, whether it was tired after the trip or stress of coming home, and we talked about the pool pump had died right before I left, so I knew the pool was going to be in bad shape, and then how much is this going to cost, and coming back just to the reality of all that homeowner nonsense. Quickly recognizing that I ain't in the right place to be trying to evaluate the quality of these photos, because everything just seemed like crap to me. And I know I've got some stuff in there that's good. I haven't even gone back to them yet, which unfortunately is, I guess, maybe another piece of it is sometimes it's almost like once an impression of something is tainted, it can be really hard to kind of put that aside and move past it. I'm waiting for that kind of like right moment where I find that spark of excitement to go look at those Colorado files again. In the meantime, I'm working on other stuff. I'm working on Smokies here and there. I'm finding other things that are exciting me and going through them. But it's human beings are such a silly creature. With our brains, all that crazy stuff. So we've kind of touched on already in terms of the workshop, and me mentioning that, it's hard not to feel like an imposter when you've got a workshop out there that you're really excited about and you think is a great offering, and you're struggling to get anybody to sign up for it. But that goes to as well, again, both of us trying to do this as a business. For me, my sole career, you've got the full-time job still, but just the sales aspect of it too. And again, open and honest, that's me. I'm not going to come here and sugarcoat things. I've released the box set about a month ago. It's been on pre-order since I can't remember when I put on pre-order. I think it was before the Colorado trip, and I've sold 2 out of 25. It's and it's similar to how the second volume of my Look for the Light series started out. But that one kind of picked up over time. I'm not really seeing that. Like through metrics on my site, I'm seeing like, people are looking at it. I've had a couple of people add it to their cart, but nobody's pushed through to finalize the purchase since those first couple. That definitely pulls in a lot of imposter syndrome. Like I've said before, last year was my best year ever for selling prints. This year's been my worst year ever in terms of individual prints, especially. So again, that like imposter syndrome just, I think, naturally bubbles back up in terms of the business aspects of it too. Like, nobody's buying my work. Is my work good or does it suck? Like, am I fooling myself by putting this stuff up on a website and making it available for sale? And again, there's so many external factors, some that we can kind of control, like search engine optimization and copy content marketing and things like that, and some we just can't, like search engine optimization to an extent, and AI summaries now popping up where people might have been directed to your site. Now they might just get an AI summary and just get it there without clicking on a link or anything. So it's just weird, but certainly the sales aspect does weigh me down, and obviously there's the very obvious, like I need income to pay my bills and everything, but it does then bear on the sense of self-worth in terms of your skills as a photographer. And again, you're going back to the workshop example, you're being seen, or am I not being seen as somebody that's in a position of authority and expertise, and that's why people aren't signing up for the workshop or what have you. So yeah, there's a lot of different factors, and not everybody's going to have the business aspects of it as well. And I'd be curious, does the business stuff kind of impact you as well, or is it, you've got not to say like, oh, you've got it easy because you got the full-time job, but like you've got that safety net, so to speak.
Correct. But ideally, obviously, it'd be nice to make the income purely off of photography instead of trying to juggle multiple things. I think where my saving grace on that side of the world, and I will admit the day job provides that safety net, so it reduces stress, right? And that's why I'm always hesitant to get too far into business because I have that safety net. But in my head, it shifts to business. So my head shifts to a more business mind of if I'm not selling something, there's a really good chance it's not me as a photographer. It's I have a marketing problem. My stuff's getting in front of the wrong people. Did I announce it early enough? Do I do Facebook ads behind it? If my Facebook ad works, awesome. If it doesn't, is it still? I'm in my head. I'm going. It's not that people don't want to do it with me. It's something with my ad didn't hit right. And there was one other point on business I was gonna. To the outside circumstances, just business in general, like. The economy right now, right? There's a lot of uncertainty.
Exactly what first came to my mind.
Wherever you sit on the fence, right? It's like it's ups and downs. People might be hesitant to spend money. Everything is more expensive right now. Camera gear is more expensive right now. I mean, the Nikon just did a price hike, like pretty substantial. So just getting groceries, travel, all of that stuff's more expensive. So it could be someone who really wants to do something with you, but by the time they add up the expense of the workshop, their own family needs, it's like, this is not the year to do it. So luckily for me, my business side of the head really probably insulates me a lot and writes off. I've got like a bazillion excuses why it's not me as a photographer. It could be my marketing, could be something else I'm doing wrong. And again, I fully, readily admit day job gives me the safety net where I can not have the stress of it and just look at it. I'm moving levers, trying to make it work. But whereas your case, you're trying to pay the bills off of that. I can see where suddenly that rabbit hole gets a lot harder to contend with because you want things to move faster and like waiting till next year to see if you can do it better advertising wise, or if the market changes or whatever. It's more stressful than it is for me. But that's on the workshop side of the world. I've got a lot of, I don't know, maybe it's a defense mechanism, but my final thing on that is I think of it like a car parts store or whatever kind of retail store. They have their ups and downs, and it's not the person running the store most likely. It's other variables that you can probably influence, but certainly not control.
Yeah, and I think it's, again, being able to step back and recognize it. And for me, like I don't know that I've had, like with the print sales being down this year and the box set not getting off to a good start and the workshop, I don't know that it's certainly imposter syndrome, probably more so with the workshop. Like I feel like I've gained some authority in the space, but again, like maybe I've misconstrued that in terms of why people aren't, not that I expect people to clamor to sign up, but again, thought with the offering that it would be better than it certainly has. But it's the disappointment of it. And I guess thankfully, like I am in a place now where I feel fairly confident in the level of my work. And yes, again, there's the ebb and flows, Colorado's example, et cetera, but it's being able to recognize or sit back, like take that step back and like, okay, is this imposter syndrome or is it truth that maybe my work isn't up to snuff or I'm not where I thought I was in terms of people wanting to seek me out for a workshop or what have you, but being able to take that step back and think through and like, well, let's be realistic about this. I've been wanting to do search engine optimization for my prints on my website for like 2 years, and I've put it off and put it off and put it off, and probably got a little overconfident with last year in terms of having the better year. And so now I've been like, part of why I haven't been working on editing photos as much as the joy of the business side comes in. I've been spending the last several weeks working on SEO copy for the website and how can I try to target the right audience and everything. So being able to, again, take that step back, it's not just necessarily talking yourself up all the time. more so, I guess, in terms of like the quality of your actual photography, but also in the case of like me with the business, or you with the side business, is being able to take that step back and logically evaluate it from all sides and recognize that, hey, it may not be a quote unquote you problem. Let's look at the marketing. Right. Let's look at, like you said, advertising or what have you. So I know not everybody listening has got the business impact of it, but several people that are listening do. Yeah. So if you're finding yourselves in the same boat, hopefully that conversation helped you. I guess I thought this was an interesting question too, is what's the difference between healthy humility and self-doubt that holds you back? Because I've got some thoughts on this one, but I'll toss it to you first.
So self-doubt versus like humility, right?
Healthy humility, yeah.
Going for here. Healthy humility. And what's the difference?
Yeah. In terms of holding you back.
It's a good question. So, because it's a balance of both. I mean, obviously self-doubt's not great. And if you have self-doubt that you allow to hold you back and that keeps you from doing something because you doubt yourself, that to me becomes problematic. And I see it. I mean, even in some of the same communities we hang out in, you'll see someone say something and, oh, I'm not sure I can. I'm not sure I'm good enough to do it. And it's like, just put it out there. Like it's the internet. Like get it out there and see. And so there's the self-doubt where I think it can be harming it keeps you from doing something you should be doing unnecessarily. Now, the humility part, I think, is a big one to acknowledge that there's people out there doing this better than I am, and I can learn from them, whether it be, studying their work, trying to figure out what makes their photo more interesting than, I mean, we talked to Alex last week, right? So our overlapping place where we both photographed Death Valley, I am 100% certain he has way more interesting images of Death Valley than mine, which are probably a little more like, but I think the humility comes there in saying that it's not self-doubt that my images are not as good as his. It's sort of a level of humility that he's put the time in Death Valley. He studied it. He's shot it from numerous locations, different environment, different conditions. And he's really fine-tuned to what is interesting and different from people that have made fewer trips to Death Valley. So I hope I'm answering the question, but that's sort of where I see self-doubt's harming, because if it keeps you from doing something, but at the same token, you don't want to drift too far back to that curve we talked about. There are people out there better than you, and that's okay. Be humble and accept it and take it as an opportunity to study what they're doing and what makes their work better, so that you can in turn bring your level up. So that's my thoughts. Yeah. That was a great question.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree 100%. I mean, to me, I would say there's a difference between realistically looking at someone else who's been doing it for, I don't know how long Alex has been going to Death Valley. Let's say he's been doing it a decade. I assume you haven't been there nearly as much. I've been there twice. Actually, I've been there once. Didn't go there last year like I thought when. Anyways, I'm trying to avoid the side tangents that I like to go on. But there's a difference between somebody that's got years and years and years of experience, either collectively or in a specific location or what have you, and that's not a place to allow that self-doubt to bubble up, because it's just the reality of somebody that's been doing it for a longer period of time is almost inevitably going to be better at it. The humility aspect of it, healthy humility aspect of it, is recognizing that and recognizing that from that place of humility versus letting the imposter syndrome and self-doubt kind of take over when it really shouldn't in that scenario. The counterpoint I would raise on this, and I feel like maybe I've brought it up before, or at least just in passing, but I feel like, and this is probably more of an art/creative struggle more than anything, but I feel like in the photography space, I see a lot of unhealthy humility in terms of people that have phenomenal work and they're very well respected, and my work sucks, or I just press a button, or even going to when I wrote my blog post about hidden gold and making the reference in there about a lot of people call going through the archives dumpster diving, and I reject that term because it's like this, to me at least, and part of this is my corporate background in terms of being told like, oh, don't be too self-deprecating, and have faith in yourself, convey confidence, and blah blah blah. And I see so much of just like the entire opposite in terms of the creative space. But
it's a very good point.
I'm going and looking through all my old junk. Like, maybe you're being tongue in cheek about it, but there's a little bit of that self-talk aspect there. And also, I'm looking at it again from my career standpoint. Like, I'm not going to go out there to potential clients and be like, oh yeah, look at this piece of shit I found in my archives or whatever. So, just little things like that. Like, hey, I'm digging for gold in my archives. I'm not dumpster diving. And to me, that's a little bit of controlling that self-talk really and self-doubt, i.e. imposter syndrome. So, I feel like there's a lot of that. Maybe some of it's false humility, but I think a lot of it's over humility. And maybe it is a confidence thing. Maybe it's just, again, that artist mindset or what have you. So, So let's toss this one out there. Since we've worked together on this, how does teaching, mentoring, or leading workshops impact your own sense of credibility?
Does it impact my own sense of credibility? Oh man, I don't know if I should be the first one to answer this one.
So let me flip it this way.
Yeah.
You've led a lot of workshops at this point, whether it be local one-on-ones or West Virginia, and then obviously the Smoky Mountains one we did earlier in the year. Coming out of each of those, have you felt more confident or less confident in your ability to teach and guide others?
I would say I feel more confident over time. And again, I don't think it's so much my photography knowledge as much as, I did some technical training way long time ago. So I enjoy the teaching aspect, and I think you can be a good teacher and not necessarily be top of your technical game per se on the how to do things, because there's a lot of core concepts that people are coming to you about that are a little more second nature to those of us who get out a lot and photograph a lot or live and breathe this every day. So exposure triangle. I mean, I know it sounds super simple, but there's a lot of people that don't necessarily intuitively get it. They know the concepts, and some of the local workshops I do, we'll talk and we'll even cover the basics, because I know people are afraid to ask a question because they feel like, if I showed up this workshop, don't know the exposure triangle, they're going to think I'm dumb. And it's like, no, you're here to make sure you understand it. And this is an opportunity to ask questions about it that you can get answered real time as we look at a scene. So I think it's one of those where I feel like there's a core set of concepts that get taught, and you can have success in your approach to doing it, making people feel comfortable asking, because there's a good chance they do know shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. They know what it is, and they even know, I change them a little bit, but creating a warm, welcoming atmosphere to ask those questions and narrow down those little pieces of doubt they might have about it makes them better in the long run. I'm not 100% sure I answered your question, but
for me, it's I guess where I was looking at this question kind of coming from was more in that validation of your skills than anything. And like, again, using the Smoky Mountains workshop as an example, I was a little nervous going into that, had a little bit of imposter syndrome going on in terms of, like, I've never done a group workshop. I've done plenty of online presentations. I've done one-on-one coaching. I've done one-on-one mentoring with some younger photographers, and always have gotten very positive feedback. But being with a group and knowing they spend a chunk of change to be there, there's I think that pressure and self-doubt was bound to bubble up. But once I got into flow of things, and then seeing the attendees' responses in terms of like light bulbs going off with things I was teaching them, whether from technical aspect or compositionally or whatever, and those aha moments that I was helping them have, and then obviously very easy to get a boost of confidence coming out of it and reading positive testimonials and things of that nature. For me, it's been good in terms of when I do have some of that self-doubt start creeping in for whatever reason, those are the things I can kind of also refer back to, whether it be I've gotten a lot of great feedback on many of my Lightroom tutorial videos. I've gotten a lot of great feedback from presentations I've given. We've gotten some really great feedback from our workshop attendees in the Smokies. So when I do have those moments of doubt, it's being able to pull on those past experiences, the past positive experiences, again, as a way to flip the self-talk from negative or doubtful to positive and confident, leaning on those experiences that I've had. If I'm questioning the caliber of my work, I've had 2 photos now included in the Natural Landscape Photography Awards books, and I've had some photos rank well. I know I'm not coming from a place of humility, but it's again, hopefully you get my point. Like, this is all to say, like, pull in those positive things that have come to you over the years and use those to kind of beat down that demon of doubt that you so eloquently put it as.
Yeah. I get that. It's sort of like, just like you said, pulling up beyond the workshops and just things you build upon those successes and those pieces and parts, and it builds that confidence a little bit to help give you a stronger foundation to work from. Even
sense. Go like if I working on the website and updating my workshop pages and that. One of the things I was updating was my online offerings in terms of one-to-one sessions and that, and I've got a little testimonials thing on there, and just in the act of editing the website, looking at the positive feedback, I'm like, oh, yeah, that feels pretty good. And it's just that little confidence boost that maybe you've got some of that you can go back and refer to or what have you. So anyways, I'm no psychologist, but hopefully I'm throwing out some good ideas in terms of how to counter the doubt.
I think one thing is, again, going back to sort of the comparison in the communities we're in. So I'm in a local photography club that has all sorts of varying levels, and they're landscape photographers, street photographers, portrait photographers. It's a wide group of both genre and skill sets. Some people are hardcore into it and know more than I do about topics, and then there's others that they pick up their camera here and there, and they're just trying to get off of auto mode and take better pictures. And where I'm going with this is we do a photo critique thing in there, and I did a focus stacked image from Death Valley, and the topic of one of the highlights is supposed to be you show a sharp front to back image, and so I took in a 7-stack focus stacked image to do that out of the Devil's Golf Course. And in that particular crowd, there was a lot of questions on focus stack. Tell me more about it. What did you use to do it? And there's a lot more. They wanted to learn it, and it was good, but it was sort of a newer topic to some of them. Some of them fully got it, but there's a subset. But I'm thinking to the Discord you and I hang out in, if I post a focus stack image in there, it's going to become a debate about does Photoshop do it better? Does Helicon Focus do it better? Does Affinity Photo do it better? And why are you using the wrong one?
And oh, by the way, why is Nikon so bad compared to Canon?
Right, exactly.
As we all like to tease each other.
Exactly. But it goes to that communities you're hanging out in. That image in our Discord group it's going to be a whole different conversation about focus stacking at a level that's like very finite and very particular. And it's real easy to feel like you don't know something because you're in that group versus the local camera club, where it was a much more informative, but the basics of focus stacking, and we didn't even dive really into what tools do it better or whatnot. But again, I just started playing into that whole, if you're feeling like you don't know something, you could be the community you're hanging out in, and not in a negative way. Just realize that the pools of what you're comparing to and everything like that, and who you're hanging out with can change. It's real easy to feel like you don't know what you're doing if you're in one group versus another group, and you're still the same photographer in either case. Yeah,
I mean, it'd be like going into let's use Reddit as an example, a subreddit for beginning photography versus, like me, I have no background in terms of like portrait photography. So if I joined a subreddit about advanced headshot portraiture or whatever, like I would feel like a complete buffoon because I don't have any baseline of experience. So yeah, the community and the environment you surround yourself is certainly important too. And again, so much I feel like what we talked about is recognizing, taking that step back and being able to recognize those variables, or however you want to frame it, in terms of why might you be feeling the way you're feeling, and how do you take that step back and be a little bit more almost impartial, like look at it as an impartial third party. Like, hey, if I were to ask Jeffrey, like, this is how I'm feeling, should I be feeling this way? Like, what might he tell me? As opposed to, again, that protective armor or whatever that we may individually have to deal with.
That defensive, that defense you get.
So we're approaching an hour. I think we've got maybe a couple more things we can touch on. One question that we've got on the prep sheet that I feel like we've hopefully given some pointers that will help folks out here and there that are listening to this if imposter syndrome has been a challenge. But the question I was really thinking about, like, well, what could we do specifically is how could we support other photographers who are struggling with imposter syndrome? And I don't know. Again, I feel like we've just kind of naturally in the course of this conversation, hopefully thrown out some tips and tricks in terms of positive self-talk versus negative and taking that step back. But anything else that you would say, if let's say you've got a buddy that's struggling with it or whatever, anything else that you might kind of coach them on in terms of overcoming it or pushing through it?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it's sort of almost a summary of what we've talked about. Of it's a natural, normal feeling. Be wary of that defensive, the defensive armor about things. If someone critiques a photo or something like that, be wary of what communities you're in. If you've jumped into an advanced community, it's probably going to be a little bit humbling. I'm sure there's communities I could jump in that I'm not privy to yet because I haven't got there, that if I jumped into would make me feel like, oh my gosh, I am, out of my league here. But to your point just a moment ago, recognize your situation you're in, where you're at with it. And I guess my last piece plays back to just have a little bit of self-confidence and just get your work out there. That's how we all improve. It can be uncomfortable, and it's okay to be a little bit uncomfortable. It doesn't, you don't, exactly. Right, 100%. And that's okay. And, you don't have to direct message your favorite photographer and be like, hey, what do you think of this? That's probably not a great way to go. But getting it out there, letting it breathe. Social media these days is so fickle and finicky anyways. It's really, just get it out there and have just a little bit of self-confidence of, it deserves to be out there. And, try to keep it open. We all have room for improvement. I've got room for improvement. Michael has room for improvement. We're all still learning nuances and things. But those are some of my thoughts. All easier said than done if you're really facing that block. But I think if you just think about the situation, and if you're really, really struggling, have a conversation with your friend, a fellow photographer that you feel is your peer, maybe you see them releasing more work. Have a conversation with them and talk about it. To see, to get some feedback and maybe some other hints on how to move through or look at your work and go from there.
Yeah, I don't know that I have a whole lot to add other than you talking about the environment you're putting yourself in and being cognizant of that. And, like social media probably isn't the place to seek out feedback, but there are environments, quote unquote, safe spaces that you can seek out, such as the Discord, Landscape Photography, or what is Landscape Photographers Worldwide Discord that we're in. And there's an image critique section in there, and it's all rooted around helping. And again, not going back to the workshop discussion of feedback as a gift and assume positive intent. It's not meant to tear you down. It's meant to build you up and improve your skills. Nature Photographers Network is another one. They've got a whole slew of critique sections in there, whether it's wildlife or bird or landscape. I can't remember all the different categories they've got, but there are places you can go that are tailored to that, and where you're going to, if you just throw some on social media, especially if it's publicly on social media, not just like your connections or whatever, you never know how that's going to go. You might attract an audience that isn't there to be helpful. Whereas if you seek out an environment that can, if you have that imposter syndrome, may provide the validation that it's unwarranted, or it can just provide some tips and tricks to help you drive the improvement. And then by that active improvement, you're going to push through that imposter syndrome and self-doubt and kind of get on the other side of the hill, so to speak. Yep.
I think that's good advice.
All right. So I think we've hit a pretty good stopping point here. So once again, I forgot to mention it at the beginning, but as you've listened, hopefully you've gotten to this point. And if you've got any thoughts, comments, questions, feedback, whatever that you want to add to the conversation, join us over on Patreon as a free or paid member. Free members can participate in the conversations as well, but we always appreciate the paid support as well to cover our expenses. Speaking of validation, removing self-doubt and imposter syndrome, money is a great way to remove that from our shoulders.
Pay us.
Show us the money.
So we know we're not imposters. Right. I think we have a new Patreon supporter since last time too, right?
I did it again.
Yes.
This is where my imposter syndrome comes up. I'm a terrible podcast host. I can't remember to
Michael's like, send us money and we'll forget.
And then we'll forget to say, I mailed off their thank you card and stickers yesterday, so I at least did that. But yes, we do have a new member. I believe you said this is somebody that's done some workshops with you, Jeffrey.
Yep. Yeah.
So why don't you give him a shout out since you know him personally?
So Ken Harnish, he joined our Patreon, and I know Ken. We've done a couple of one-on-ones, and he's done one of my Hocking Hill group workshops and stuff. And we email back and forth here and there. So he supported us. Thank you, Ken. Very much appreciated.
Very, very much. I don't know you, Ken, but thank you so much. Your stickers are on the way. Well,
yes.
By this point, you've had them for 2.5, 3 months, so whatever. But now
if you don't have them yet, let us know, because something went really
right,
wrong.
Exactly. So definitely appreciate your support, and for everybody else, again, whether you're a free or paid member, we'd love to have you join the community over on Patreon. Like we've said several times, we've had some really good discussions, even with our small community that it is as we start out. Otherwise, I think we're going to wrap up here. So otherwise, I think we'll
be back.
Yeah. So this is like take 3 of me trying to do that. Second intro. Outro, what are we doing here? This is why I have self-doubt.
We're just going to shut her down.
Shut her down. Shut her down, shutter nonsense. This has gone completely off the rails, so we're going to close it out. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you were watching, everybody. Sorry about scratching my nose this entire time. I feel like I've got a cat hair stuck up it. So that's been your pleasure of watching that. And until next time, take care.
Awesome. See you, everybody.